Now you're listening to Fantastic Formosa with John Abrams in Taipei. Okay, this is John Abrams, Fantastic Formosa, and we're lucky enough to have Mr. Lee back. And last week he talked about his life in America and his university experience, and then later his military experience in the U.S. military. He was born in Taiwan and left when he was 7, and at a certain point in his career, his life, he came back. So how old were you when you came back to Taiwan?
When I returned, I was 25 years old.
Okay, well, that's still pretty young. Come on.
Very young.
You got a lot done,
still
though.
A kid.
You got a lot done. You were in the military, airborne, American airborne. You were a car salesman. You went to university, business. You were basically a cowboy.
Yes.
So 25 years old, you come back. Is this the first time you came back?
Yes. Actually, growing up in America, in Houston, my parents would never let me visit Taiwan because at that time, at a certain age, if you come back to Taiwan, being male, you cannot leave again. So I left when I was 7, right, growing up, but they wouldn't let me come back. So when I was growing up, there's a big popular program for overseas Chinese. They would come back during the summertime and learn about Chinese culture, and it was called the Love Boat program, right? Love Boat program.
Love Boat
program. It was a government.
Okay.
It was a government program. Summer camp. They brought in overseas Chinese, and then you come out for 3 months summer camp, and then you will learn about the local Chinese culture. You make dumplings, and then you learn about the culture, all that. But all these, people that joined are young Americanized Chinese, and they stayed at the compound near Shili Night Market.
Oh, wow.
Right.
All right.
So they would go in the Shili Night Market and end up in Tianmu partying and all that. So that's not good. It's called the Love Boat program for people that join the right.
Okay. So you couldn't come back?
My parents wouldn't let me come back to these things.
Oh, that's
So when I was working and I was already an adult, first chance I got to leave home and come back, I took that chance.
So you had a good time, or didn't have a good time, sorry. You didn't go back till you were 25.
Yeah.
And it must have been culture shock.
Yes, culture shock. But actually, growing up in the States, I had a lot of, I wanted to know about the culture, the Taiwanese culture and all that. I was always interested in speaking Mandarin when I'm out with my friends. A lot of my friends were Mandarin-speaking friends and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew quite a bit about Taiwan or what it's like that. I worked at a Chinatown KTV too, so a lot of the karaoke discs, all the videos were shot in Taipei at the time, Zhongxiao Donglu and all that, so I got to know the road scene and all that.
Oh, wow.
But I remember returning at the airport and getting to Taipei City, and then being all excited, seeing that light turn green and seeing all the scooters coming my way in a taxi. I was really excited. Yeah.
And this was what year?
This is 1993.
Oh,
imagine this is after Good Morning Vietnam came out. And Good Morning Vietnam, they had this scene where in Vietnam, but it was instead of scooters, it was all bicycles.
Yes.
Bicycles.
Yeah.
So I remember seeing all the scooters coming at me on Chengde Road and getting all excited.
You thought you were someplace else, Vietnam or something, yeah. Yeah, so you had very little knowledge of Taiwan life, Taipei life. So you got here. Where'd you go to stay?
Well, I had a friend that worked in Shilin, and then he helped me to get an apartment along Chengde Road. My first night in the apartment, I didn't want to sit indoors, so I went out. And from my apartment, I walked left for half an hour. Then I walked back to my apartment. Then I walked right I walked 4 directions, half hour each way. And I found a 7-Eleven, bought a notepad, and I drew a map of that whole area. I walk in. So actually, I knew where I can get breakfast next day, where was the nearest scooter shop, and things like that.
All right. Wow, you really were, even though you were born here, stranger, kind of. That's an exciting time in your life.
Yes, exciting time. And I got reconnected with all my relatives. And Wendell, here's the funny thing. I would reconnect with my relatives, and every time we meet up, they would take me to go have steaks and all that. At that time, is the night market steak, the real thin.
I
piece
remember
of steak,
that.
like that.
Yes. Yeah.
And one day I said, it's hard for me to imagine people in Taiwan eating steak all the time. He goes, no, you're from America. You're the one that's eating steak all the time. We want to have rice.
We don't have steak all the time.
Right. So I don't. No. Take me to a rice place and things like that.
You want to go. You want to learn about your culture. Your
I couldn't read. I couldn't read the menu in Mandarin, so I would go to these places where they had the lunch boxes, and I would point at the dishes.
Right. Okay. So sort of what I have to do, But you can read now, right?
Yes, I can read now.
Yeah. So you left at 7. Maybe you'd stayed until you were 11 or 12. You probably would have been still perfect, I think. But one of the things, we have children, 2 boys, and my wife keeps wondering whether we should send them to the U.S. when they get older for schooling, and I says not until after junior high. So their Chinese is perfect, and then they can go to the U.S. and establish residence. They're American citizens anyway. So, but yeah, it's hard to tell my children that they have 2 choices. Well, it's kind of nice actually, but they often are confused about that choice. So people keep asking them where they're from. And they're a mix, right? And their mother's father was from China, and so was the grandmother. And they don't. I thought they looked Chinese, but all the other kids ask them where they're from. So I have one son that says I'm Taiwanese, and the other son that says I'm American. So it's completely confusing for them. So did you feel sort of out of it when you came back? Did you feel sort of outside the community, or?
No, I think when I was getting ready to return, I had my family back in Houston reminded me, when I'm in Taiwan, don't be too Americanized. So don't be mixing my Mandarin and English like that and make people feel you're a little bit cocky and things like that. So.
I see.
And I spoke Mandarin pretty well, so I would speak Mandarin on that. But with a Americanized accent, they can tell.
They tell you you're...
And at that time, when I returned, 93, is when the L.A. boys were popular. So everyone is crazy about these ABCs and coming from...
American-born Chinese?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that was a big deal. I remember that. I came here in 93 for the first time. It was a different world back then. Oh, my gosh. But today it's such a beautiful city and country. We had a lot of factories back then, pollution, and I don't even recognize the city now. Mm-hmm. So here you are, you're back in Taiwan, and you're like, what am I going to do? What should I do? What's your plan? What are you going to do? What was the idea? They'll learn more Mandarin, of course, but...
Actually, I had a good friend that I met in Houston. He lived in Shilin, so he saw on the paper that they had an opening at Taipei American School for security guard, and that didn't require reading and writing Mandarin. So he got me an interview, and I went there for an interview, and I got the job. So that was my first full-time job in Taiwan.
But it also said that you are an American citizen, and
yes.
that you served in the special unit, airborne, and that must have impressed them, though.
Yes, on my resume, I put, because for local hires, they want to make sure I have a ROC ID, and I also have a U.S. citizenship. So for my resume, they asked if you finished your military service
in Taiwan,
right? But that's for Taiwan, so I put it down U.S. Army airborne unit, and it turned out one of the interviewers, who is the security department. I worked as security guard. The security department chief. He was actually a retired. ROC airborne.
Oh wow!
Right.
So you could talk about that.
Yes, and he was a big, strong guy. Actually, he had a nickname. His nickname was Rocky because he was actually a pretty built guy.
Strong.
Yeah, Rocky. So all the old Timu people and people that knew Taipei American School would know
They knew Rocky.
Yeah.
All right, don't mess with him.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. How long were you at the Taipei American School?
I was at Taipei American School for about 2 years. So was my experience.
All right. And that's the place that it's the number one school for foreigners, but there aren't very many Americans there, are there?
Well, back then there's a lot. Not now. I think less and less more. Back then it was all American families and all that.
But today, you is it required that you have a foreign passport, or is it still, or can you just be rich? Or
No, I think you still need to have a U.S. passport.
American passport.
Or maybe a foreign passport.
Some sort of foreign,
Right.
yeah.
A Western country.
Okay. And across the street is the European school.
The Japanese school is.
Japanese school.
Right, Taipei Japanese school.
And where's the European?
The European school is a little bit higher up into the mountains.
Further north. Okay. Yes. All right. Well, that must have been an interesting job for you.
Yes. That was the first, actually, I worked the security guard. I worked the graveyard shift. So that was my actually first exposure to the local politics and all that.
What are you talking about?
Oh, I worked with two old guys. One was green, one was blue, and they would argue all night about this. And I listened in, and that's how I got exposure to this.
That's how you learned about the political situation.
Yes, the big rip. And then, they would argue for it. It looked like they're going to start fighting because they were all old guys. But at that time, this is 1993, they were 60-something, close to retirement age, 65.
So they
would argue almost like they're going to fight. I had to jump in between them and then calm them down. And then later on, they're like best buddies, 7 o'clock in the morning, we're ready to get off.
Tradition.
And every night, it's the same thing. Like that. That's my first exposure to the blue and the green rift and all that.
Yeah, it's very different today. Yeah, 93, it was still difficult. But it's a wonderful political system. Democracy is here, and I think freedom of speech, right? And all kinds of wonderful things here. So you left after 2 years of being the night shift.
Yes.
We call it the hoot owl or night owl or hoot owl, right?
Yes.
Or the graveyard shift. Yeah, because nothing's going on. Did you have anything interesting happen at night? That someone trying to break into the school?
No, nothing interesting like that. But what's interesting is I started working at TS 93. It was August. So it was typhoon season, August, September, typhoon season. Right. First typhoon. We were actually locked down in the school for more than a day, and it was a dumpling festival. So I had dumpling for almost 5 meals, 6 meals, because there's so many dumplings in the school.
You could only get dumplings.
Right. So people, all the local staff had dumplings in their offices, and they had the rice cookers, and we would heat them up. And that's the first time I had the rice dumplings for through 5 meals. I remember.
See, you could have just played basketball inside all day.
Could have, just don't get caught in that.
Don't get caught? I mean, what
because we have to patrol, and then there was a little black box where you have to stick a key in there, you turn it, and they will make an imprint on a piece of paper to make sure you patrolled the spot.
Right, of course. Yeah. Those are like time clocks. But you could also have time off, right? And if you had an hour lunch, you could play basketball, surely.
Right, we didn't really have, I don't recall we had break time, such a set break time, because we worked in a team of graveyard shift, or even daytime shift, you work in a team of 5 or 6 people, so you can get your bathroom breaks and all that. But it wasn't like America set break time where you go to a room and you're like kind of away from your working environment, relax. There's nothing like that.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Yet the school was closed, typhoon.
Yes. Right. School's closed, typhoon. Our graveyard shift, actually, we have access to the whole school, and that was pretty free. Something very different, though, to adjust to working in Taiwan, first coming back, being 25-year-old, is we got paid once a month. In America, you get paid every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, some places are 2 weeks or every week. But I do miss that weekly check. Automatic deposit. When I was younger, it was a check, and you had to run to the grocery store to cash your check and pay all your bills. Try to pay all your bills. Direct deposit didn't come along till much later. But when I came here in 1993, you couldn't use your ATM card in America here. Now you can, which is great. So you had this job for 2 years, and your goal was to study Mandarin and go back to America and sell cars again. What happened?
Well, I guess I kind of made a life for myself here.
All right.
So I was always kind of a workaholic. So when I worked as a security guard on my days off, I would pick up part-time teaching jobs at the English schools and all that. And I also picked up a job at a bar in the Shuangzhenjie area. So
okay. Did it have a name?
Huh?
What was the name of it? Obviously, you didn't.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm drawing a blank right now. I don't recall.
A long time ago.
Yeah, it's a too long time.
Okay. All right. I'd love to know, though. That was one of my watering holes, as they call it. You know, where horses go to water themselves. We call it a watering hole in Texas, right? Yeah, I think that's all closed now.
Yes. None of the same bars there.
No. No, they're all gone. So, yeah, I'm interested if we met each other maybe before.
Possibly, yeah.
I didn't know about it. So you were doing everything. You're a workaholic. And a holic, you know, we could talk about people. That's a suffix, the word. And we can say workaholic, alcoholic, what else?
Chocoholic.
Chocolate, you like chocolate. So it just means you can't stop eating chocolate. So we use that for work, too. If you just work all the time, you're a workaholic. You don't take time off to relax. And it's not good for your health, I don't think. But so after 2 years, you had a lot of these teaching jobs and everything. What'd you do after you quit Taipei American School?
I started working at a chain school, a giraffe school up along Bader Road.
Giraffe.
Yeah, Giraffe English School along Bader Road.
You had to wear the polo shirt with giraffe on it, right?
I didn't wear a uniform, but the funny thing for that job is when I went in an interview for that job, the school administrator found out I was from Texas. And they said, we need to make sure you don't have a strong Texas accent. Here we have this teacher, he graduated English major out of NTU. So he started speaking to me for 15 minutes. I know I have a Texas accent, but after talking to me 15 minutes, he walked over to the boss. I heard him say in Chinese, no Texas accent at all. But I'm thinking he just couldn't catch my Texas accent.
All right.
I have the Texas drawl. No, he didn't catch it.
The Texas drawl.
Yeah, so I got the job. That's my first teaching job.
You can lose your drawl.
Oh.
It happens. I lost mine.
Teaching the word fruits came across from guava, and in America you didn't have guava.
We don't have it.
Right. I want to in class we introduce guava to the students and get them to do that in a natural language setting, but I really don't know what I was talking about.
Okay. We have something called the Southern drawl in our speaking. If you're from the South, and I had a little bit of a drawl. And, I did, not as strong as like Kentucky or Tennessee or Georgia, but we had it. And I would call home to my brother, and he wouldn't know who I was. I'd say I'd lost my drawl, and he'd say, "Who is this?" I said, "It's your brother." And he'd go, "Really?" He thought it was a joke. So here you are. Now you're teaching, making good money, I guess. No, yes, maybe.
Yes, pretty good money. And then I'm a person that likes routines and all that. So when I started teaching, my routine was after work, I would hit a night market, and I would hit a different night market every evening after work. And after night market, I would hit a bar or something like that.
Okay, so you had a set habit every day. Okay. So you taught English for a while. Then what'd you do?
Then, because I was hitting on the bar, I had an opportunity to get a job working at the Pig and Whistle behind the bar.
Is this the one up there in Timu?
In Timu.
Okay. Now that's a legendary bar. I don't know if it's still open.
Pig Whistle is no longer open.
Right. If you were a foreigner, and a lot of foreigners lived in Timu, and that area was an expatriate, we call it expat hangout. People lived there, they ate there, you could kind of pretend you were not in Asia. It was very Americanized. And one of the bars there, pubs, was Pig and Whistle, and very popular. It was hard to get in the door on a Friday night, impossible. So you were a bartender? Or?
Yes,
okay.
worked as a bartender.
Yeah. So that whole area sort of dried up. A lot of foreigners left the area and moved to Nehu. Nehu's the new expatriate place to live. I don't know why that is. It could be the MRT, but the MRT did not go to Timu, right? It just barely goes.
A little bit outskirts of Timu, but
right. It's not easy.
The popular where the expats are living now, that it didn't get to that part.
Right. Okay. I don't know if that was on purpose or whatever.
I think maybe just hard to acquire land in there for the
could
market.
Be. Yeah. But all the expatriates live in Nehu, which is very expensive. Yeah. I rarely go there. I have, and in fact, I rarely go to Timu. I haven't been to Timu maybe in 10 years. It's just nothing there for me to do. But that was where you could buy Western food, like grocery store food that you could not get in America, could not get anywhere in Taiwan.
Yes, they had some. They still have some grocery stores that sell some canned goods, and then some of the sweets and things from the United States.
Yeah,
and I think you can get Copenhagen there. You can get,
right? These are very expensive though.
Yeah, of course.
When you get them here, but you could actually go up there and find something if you got like something you really wanted to get. Like really thinking about from your earlier life, and you wanted to get it. You possibly find it there. So now you're doing all these things. You're teaching, you're working in a restaurant bar, and where's this going? It continues onward to you're meeting everybody.
Yes.
You're meeting, you meet everybody in the expatriate community, all the Americans in that place. And then you're teaching kids, and you're meeting the parents, or you're learning about the culture. So you're still thinking about going back, aren't you?
Actually, yeah, I think my ticket was half a year to return back to Houston, but I never used that return flight. And 2 years, 3 years go by, 4 years, I started becoming home. Yeah. And I was owning a bar at that time, 95, 96. I was a part owner for a bar that time pretty well. At that time, they were just finishing the MRT system. So a lot of my customers were the engineers that worked on the MRT.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right.
And my bar at that time opened 3 in the afternoon until 3 in the morning. So it was a unique place, and you can, for 4:30 or 5 in the afternoon, you can walk into a place and have happy hour going on.
Right. Okay. What name was it?
It's called Green Bar.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
right, Green Bar.
All right.
And we would play George Strait. That's something too.
Yeah, you had to play a special
Yes.
music for foreigners because
country western. George
country
Strait,
western music. Yeah, George Strait. Yeah. See, I'm a country music guy. Oh, big time. So you're pretty happy here.
Yeah, very happy.
Yeah. Did you get married? Did you?
Yes. Yes, I got married here too. But at that time, 96, I had a local girlfriend, and her family owned a trading company. Okay. So I ended up even when I was working at the bar, I ended up working at their trading company in daytime as a sales trading company.
Well, that's a nice move for you.
We sold optical frames and sunglasses that were made out of China over the world. And I took my sales team back to New York for trade show, and then we went to Las Vegas for trade show, and we went to, get this, we went to Sweden to meet up with our customers.
Wow.
We're at the Stockholm airport trying to get a rental car.
Okay.
My boss tells me, get us one of the cheaper rentals. And then they pull around a Volvo. My boss says, I told you get a cheaper rental. Get a Volvo. I looked at my boss. I said, Volvo is their national brand. That's a cheap. My boss said, there's a Ford out there. I said, Ford is an import car for them. Volvo is their national brand. It's the cheapest car.
Right. Yeah. It is the cheapest car. Yeah.
In Sweden.
So that's wonderful. You got to travel.
Yes.
And you're working at a trading company. You're probably making money. right?
Yes, making money. And at that time, from the China Post, there you get a lot of unique ads. I recall when every one of these business trips, my boss would call his local travel agent friend, and I would go through a ad found on China Post that they cater to Westerners, and they sold tickets at low prices.
Yeah, I remember these. Trips.
Yeah, these are called this organization, this travel agency. I don't know if it still exists or not because no one's picking up their phone anymore.
Right.
It's called David's Ticketing.
Yeah, I remember David's
Ticketing.
Yeah.
I got plane tickets going to Europe too. We went to Rome, Italy for a trade show. I got them at 1/3 of the price at the local travel agency.
Right.
Go to my boss.
Well, we used to have, when I first got here, I didn't have a work permit, and we had to fly back and forth from Hong Kong. So I had a 5-year visa, good for 2 months. So every 2 months, I had to fly back and forth from Hong Kong. Literally fly to Hong Kong, go through immigration, go back through immigration, get back on the same airplane, and fly back to Taipei. And these were called visa runs. Yes. And I did those for about a year when I was here. And
Can you imagine that? I did the visa runs for more than 11 years. I get returned when I was 25. I did the visa run until 36.
My God, if you missed one, what would happen? I mean, you're a citizen. Why?
I was a citizen, but I didn't serve in the ROC military.
I see.
Actually, I by law, I have to. So back then, there was a loophole.
Oh.
And the loophole is that if you are westernized Taiwanese, if you have dual citizenship, if you didn't reside in Taiwan, you're not obligated to serve. So residing in Taiwan is you stay longer than, you don't leave Taiwan, you stay longer than 3 months. You have this record 4 times, that you don't leave within a year, then that means you reside in Taiwan. Then you have to report for the military and all that.
I thought if you served in the U.S. military, you were not allowed to serve in the military here.
I went to check at the local military, and then they said, I wanted to serve. I told the local military people in Taichung back then when my household registration was in Taichung, said, if you can assign me to an airborne unit, I was already airborne qualified in the States, I would join up. I would join up. And then they said, no, this is different. This is not America.
Yeah, you can't choose.
Yeah, and I have a story for you that's so interesting because I was always looking for opportunities to jump again, all that. One time my friend saw an ad in the paper. There was a parachute manufacturing plant in central Taiwan. They wanted to test someone to jump out of an airplane, C-119 at that time, to test the parachute.
That was called the C-119 was the box car.
Yes.
They still had
I
them.
called this person up, and then the person said, we're going to jump this weekend. You want to jump 10,000 NT for a jump? It's going to...
10,000 feet.
Yeah. You make this jump 10,000 NT for the parachute.
Oh, 10,000 NT.
Yeah. To test out their chute.
They're going to pay you.
Yeah.
All right.
10,000 they're going to pay me. And then that weekend, I was going to make a visa run to the Philippines, so I couldn't do the jump. So I said, well, in the future, if you have this opportunity, let me know. Then I came back from my visa run. My friend showed me an ad in the paper where the other person that did the jump with this company, the parachute didn't open, had a malfunction. He didn't pull his reserve chute.
Oh, my God.
So it didn't work out too well for him. So my friend said, you got really lucky.
Was he former airborne?
Yes, he was former
Taiwan?
Taiwanese airborne. Right.
Okay, it happens. I mean, there are accidents. Yeah, that could have been you.
Yes, it could have been me if I didn't have to make these visa runs.
Right.
But about visa runs, back then there was great ticket that you can't find anymore, I think because of inflation and the fuel cost. David's Ticketing had a 5,000 NT China airline ticket that left Taiwan late Friday evening. So you get to Hong Kong Saturday morning, 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I would pull out my sleeping bag and then rest in the Hong Kong airport.
Right.
You know, Hong Kong airport, at nighttime there's at least 50.
Is this Kai Tak, right?
Yes.
This is the old one.
Well, no. My first time in Hong Kong was Kai Tak, and then after that, now it's a new one.
Right.
The new one.
Yeah,
but there's people laid out. There's
everywhere.
a lot of backpackers sleeping at the airport because staying in Hong Kong is just so expensive.
All right.
Yeah. I remember going on these visa runs at nighttime. In the lobby, they would have these coffee shops that are open 24 hours, and they have TVs running, and they're showing the late 80s basketball games, Boston Celtics games, Larry Bird, Robert Parrish games like that.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were just watching basketball.
Right. And then when you get there I would do this flying to Hong Kong Saturday morning, late Saturday, and then sleep in at the airport, and then daytime going to Hong Kong for a day of partying and going to TST and hang out at the Chungking Mansion. I love going to the Chungking Mansion for the curry.
Chungking Mansions in Kowloon Road in Hong Kong is very famous. It is every floor is different, and it's a legendary place. Shopping, restaurants, and a hostel. You can live there, and I have to say that someone tried to do a history of it, and they couldn't get enough data on how it started, even. But it is a real legend. If you can tell somebody's been to Chungking Mansions by even mentioning this very strange place, it's in novels. People write about it in novels. It's dirt cheap, though. You can stay there in a one-room place. I've stayed near it. I've never stayed inside of it.
There's actually one hostel in Chungking Mansion. That one trip I stayed, it was bunk beds. In this big room, there were 8 bunk beds. Mm-hmm. And when I stayed that weekend, I think I paid 60 Hong Kong dollars for a bed.
I believe
per
it.
night. And then the window is facing the Sheraton on the side. So if you were to open up the curtains, you can look across into the Sheraton wall. And if someone didn't have their curtains closed, you can actually see their hotel room.
Yeah,
right.
I stayed in the Sheraton too.
Yeah.
When I finally got a real job and real money, I was. It's a big jump when you finally get a real job and real money. You never go back to a hostel, but you don't meet anybody interesting in a big hotel. You know,
I think a place like Chungking Mansion is very, very, very interesting for people that grew up in the States or people, because I think it exposes us to different cultures and all.
Oh, yeah, there's different country people. Pakistanis, there were people from Africa, there were people from Nepal, there were...
growing up in Houston, I would always go to these Latino bars or where I'm the only non-Latino in there, Asian. I never felt danger or anything like that. It was always fun to speak to them a little bit of English, a little bit of Spanish, and things like that.
Yeah, I loved that time period. I don't know what Chungking Mansions is like these days, but I assume it's still there. There was always talk, and, talk is cheap. There was always talk they were going to tear it down someday because it was such a terrible reputation.
Yes. Actually, the locals still think it's a dangerous place because it's a fire hazard, and then they have people getting...
They had a fire there one year when I was there. Yeah, 1991 or 92, they had a fire.
And the interesting thing about Hong Kong is no one in Hong Kong, none of the taxi drivers know the address. You give them an address, they won't find it. But if you tell them the name of the building, they'll find it.
Yeah. That's a completely different system. It's the British system, I think it is. Hong Kong was an amazing place back in the early days. In 1980s and 90s, I really enjoyed living there. Going there, and I was there for a couple of years, and I don't know, I had a heartbeat. You could feel it.
I was in Hong Kong doing the handover. I went to Hong Kong for the handover, and then 99 I went to Macau for the handover.
Oh, you went to the Macau one
too?
Okay.
On the Hong Kong handover.
All right.
My first trip to Hong Kong was 1995, and my impression of Hong Kong, Macau, they love people, even back in the late 90s, they love people to speak Mandarin. Hong Kong didn't. Even 95, when you speak Mandarin to the local shop people, they kind of ignore you. But when you switch to English, they were very polite.
Yeah, the Cantonese, different language. And back in my day, in the 90s, they weren't too friendly to Americans either, English-speaking Americans. But now they are. I think they miss us.
I remember joking with the security guard, looking at a building, and then the building had the English word center, but it was spelled the British spelling. So I'm joking with the security guy. I say, "What a beautiful building," but they spelled the word wrong. The guy looked at me and said, "No, that's British spelling. You must be American."
Yeah, the Queen's English.
Or the security guard would say, "Hey, the flat. Americans we use the lift. The lift is over there," and I'm going.
Elevator.
I turn around. What is that?
Elevator.
I'm ready for the elevator. Yeah.
floors are apartments are flats,
Yes.
and yeah, it's all British. I don't know if they've changed the names at all, but I wonder if they've changed any of the street names. A lot of them were named after famous British people. So yeah, we used to go through the China Post newspaper here in Taiwan, and we'd find these great advertisements for flying anywhere, really cheap, and mostly they put them in the newspaper for visa runs. People they have to fly somewhere, and I flew to Manila once, and when I got there, the airline went out of business. Just as I got off the airplane, they said, "We're sorry, the airline's out of business."
Wow.
And, it was like 3,000 NT to fly to Manila. It was incredible, round trip. I said, "Well, I have to get back, and they go, "Well, we're sorry, we're bankrupt now." I go, "Well, you don't understand. I don't have very much money." I was going to spend the week there maybe and look around. I just managed to buy another ticket to get back. I'm so lucky. I mean, I could have been in serious trouble. I think this was around 97 or 98 here. Yeah, I hated those visa runs. I really did. They're always recommending another very interesting one. Used to be a ferry that took off from Geelong Harbor in the north and went to Okinawa, and then turned around and came back. So it would enter Okinawan waters, Japanese waters, and they'd stamp your passport. And then they would leave, and then they'd stamp it that you're leaving, and then you come back and they stamp it when you got back. And that was like a day trip for the ferry. I don't know how long. And they had gambling on board. You could gamble. So that was a very interesting option. I didn't know if you knew about that idea.
I didn't know about the ferry, but I knew when Star Cruises started serving out of Geelong, you can go on these visa runs on the cruise ship.
Oh, really? I didn't know
When Star
that.
Cruises first started, it was really cheap. They had a 3-day, 2-night trip for less than 4,000 NT. So you're on
Wow.
a cruise ship. They go to Okinawa. No,
Wow, just Okinawa? Or?
yeah, they go into international waters around
Okay.
Okinawa, but
All right.
you couldn't get on land. So basically, if you're on this ship for this visa run, you just stay on the ship, and then they go out into international waters, and then they come back, and then you land in Geelong, and then you get your new visa for the next 39 days.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I don't know. I got finally got a job and didn't need to do the runs anymore. But yeah, then you had to face the reality whether or not you wanted to live in Taiwan or move on. And I came to Taiwan by accident, really. I just landed here to see a friend, and I was going to Hong Kong to look for work. And my friend and me were just talking, and I stuck around for a few days, and a few days became a few weeks, and a few months, and a few years. And after 25 years, I'm married with 2 kids, and yeah, it's a great country. It's got a lot of wonderful things. There's a very low crime rate, right? Nothing like America.
Yeah, it's very, very low crime rate.
Gosh, you don't ever see anything like that. They have great medical care. Yeah, and the people are so friendly here. Did that surprise you when you came back? How friendly people were. Of course, you're local. Maybe they weren't so friendly.
Yes, but talk about friendliness. I have a great memory of my first day in Taiwan, in Beito, and I was getting breakfast at this soybean milk place I had, but I was short on money. I was short of 5 NT or something. I told the boss I don't have the money. Lady looked at me and said, "Don't worry about it. Come pay it in the next few days."
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. See that in America.
That is something you could not imagine as a young American.
Not in America.
Yeah,
no
not in
way.
America.
Oh, no.
And I have also an exciting story to share with you about living in Taiwan. Back then, when I was working at the Pig and Whistle, my coworkers and I, we were all 25, 26. At the end of after work, we would like to ride our scooters up and down Tianmu West Road like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I always wanted to collect merchandise from different universities in Taiwan. I had a cousin that studied at NTU, so I got a NTU shirt. We got stopped one night, all of us. There were 6, 7 of us. We got stopped by the police for a check. They've seen 6, 7 scooters coming up and down Tianmu East West Road. They stopped us.
Mm-hmm.
The policeman checked everyone's driver's license and their registration for the scooter.
Mm-hmm.
When he got to me, he said, "Oh, NTU," shook his head and walked off. Didn't even ask for my identity. I was the only one out of the 6 and 7 that did not have a local driver's license or a scooter license.
That would have been, you've been in trouble.
Right. So before that, my friends would always say, "You didn't go to study at NTU. Why would you have an NTU shirt?" And I would tell them, "You don't have to study at Harvard to wear a Harvard hoodie or something like that, right?"
Yeah, it's better not to, actually. But, did you think about getting an advanced degree here, a master's? Or?
I think never looked at that much because my Mandarin Chinese is really poor. I still cannot read and write Mandarin Chinese. I cannot sit down and write a letter to save my own life. I always have to check. I always have to type out what I want to say on my smartphone and then look at it closely and then
translate it
character. Yes.
Well, today you got all these new translation software. Like what is it, Deep L or what is it?
No, because I know the phonetic alphabet, so I use the phonetic alphabet to type out the word, and I can identify which character it is. Then I type it out on my phone, and then I write it into any kind of forms I need to fill out and things like that.
Are you talking about Bopomofo?
Yes.
Okay.
Bopomofo,
All right. I tried my best to learn the language when I got here, and just completely gave up. I was too old. And now my wife won't allow me to speak Chinese around the children because my Chinese is so bad. So and the kids keep looking at me like I'm crazy. They're embarrassed. But their English is pretty good. Not as good as it should be. But so your plan is to continue living here?
Yes, I think Taiwan is home now.
Yeah. All right.
So.
All right. Are your parents still around?
Yes, my parents are still back in Texas, in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
I think our family's been there for 40-something years now. So I think every time they return to Taiwan, they grew up here. They won't say they dislike it, but I can feel that they're not fully comfortable wherever we go.
I see. It's not home for them anymore.
Yes.
It's culture shock and. Yeah. I think there's more Taiwanese language spoke here now than it used to be too, right? Yeah, the language is a little bit different. And the chances of going back for you only depend upon having a place to go, of course. And do you have brothers and sisters left? Or?
Yes, I have a sister. She lives in Dallas, Fort Worth area.
Okay. She might be able to take you back if you have to go home. But you're pretty happy here.
I'm happy here, and I think the America that today is not the America that I knew back in the early 90s when I left.
Yeah, America's changed. It's become very crime-ridden, and I hate to say it, but the drugs or fentanyl is just completely destroying the entire country. Something you don't worry about here in Taiwan at all. Yeah. Hey, Lee, thanks a lot for coming today. I really appreciate it. And hope to see you again sometime.
Sure, anytime. This is interesting.
Right. Yeah, good. This is John Abrams, Fantastic Formosa. I hope to see you next time, folks. Goodbye.